So over the past 12 months, I've had the privilege of owning and using the Ace Pro 2 all over the world to capture and document different parts of my life, which has been fantastic. And when I'm now looking back at it and all the gigs of footage that I have, I honestly think that this is my most used camera up until now. And in this video, I don't want to talk about which camera is better or worse, or which camera you should buy, because they're all actually great cameras. The Action 5, the X5, GoPro 13, GoPro 12, GoPro 11, and so on. X4, X3, Action 3, Action 4, and even the older Ace Pro. It's just that technology evolves and new improvements are made each year. Some are minor and some are larger. But if you're checking out this video because you're on the fence of buying your first action camera, or maybe they all have a good deal at the time of making this video or watching this video, and maybe you're a touch more interested in the Ace Pro 2, then this video is for you. So in this video, I want to talk about all the good and the bad, and basically my experience after using this camera for close to 12 months now. First, let's start with the camera itself. Here I have an ND filter, which I've been using quite a lot. This is from Freewell and works with the Ace Pro and the Ace Pro 2 and comes in a pack like this. If it's something you need, well, not really. Is it something that will make it a little bit easier to get the perfect shot? Yes, but I'll leave a link to it down in the description below if you want to check it out. But let's get over to the size and form factor about the Ace Pro 2 here, which is quite large compared to the Action 5 if we put them side to side here. But the size differences and the size of the Ace Pro 2 doesn't really matter that much to me. If I compare this to the GoPro 13, for example, and I want to have a better audio, it will require a media mod on the GoPro, which not only makes the camera larger, but also more expensive. Whilst the Ace Pro 2 has a seamless connection with the DJI Mic 2, the Mic Mini, and also the new Insta360 Mic Air. But being honest, I wish they made the camera a little bit smaller from the beginning when it comes to the Ace Pro here. So yeah, that's just a minor thing. I wish they made it a little bit smaller, because I can really notice some of the differences when I compare this to the Action 5 Pro and when I put it on my helmet, for example. So just be a little bit aware of that when you are buying your first action camera. This is a little bit heavier, not much, but a little bit heavier. And if you're doing motovlogs, it's a little bit more noticeable that you have this weight in front of your helmet when you use the Ace Pro 2. But for vlogging and setting up shots where you have the camera in the distance and you're doing a walk by or something like that, the flip up screen is absolutely amazing. And I just want to highlight something here. I used this with the Flow 2 Pro on our vacation in Hawaii earlier this year, and this combo is absolutely awesome. Not only for point and shoot vlogging, but for cinematic videos, B-roll, and general travel shots. And this is mainly because we have this flip screen here, which allowed me to capture videos no matter how I held the gimbal or how low I held the gimbal. But I also have a dedicated video on this subject where I use the Flow 2 Pro with the Ace Pro 2. So I'll make sure to leave that down below so you can check that out later. But I'm telling you, this combo is a killer combo, smooth tracking shots, and I could just pop out the camera and go to the drink and do a swim without having to worry about the water at all, because this is waterproof. And another thing when it comes to the flip screen here, it really makes a difference when I do vlogs and I want to frame the shots properly. Even though all these cameras have a super wide field of view, it's always nice to see things in details. Now, when it comes to durability, I think all these action cameras are at the point now where it doesn't really matter which one you get. And I think it rather comes down to battery life, field of view, and color profile. Maybe not field of view, because they are all just as wide, give or take a few degrees. And if you want it even wider, you will have to buy additional accessory like on the GoPro and also on the Action 5 Pro here. But out of the box, they are somewhat the same. But mainly color profile and battery life, I would say. And of course, a lot of people is gonna say 10-bit has a lot to say, but I don't really mind if it's 8-bit or 10-bit. I think at the end, it's the story that matters, what you capture and how you capture it, and ultimately how you present your video. And not everyone is capable of making the most out of it, even if it sounds like a must-have feature. Just my opinion though. But as a build quality, I think the Ace Pro 2 is holding up exceptionally good, just like all other cameras that I have. Now, what might separate the Ace Pro 2 from other cameras, both good and bad, depending on what you prefer, is image quality. I know some of you might say, oh, it's crap, it doesn't have 10 bits. Again, personally, I don't really mind and I don't really care. Like I said, it's the story that matters and how you present your video. And I think the image quality, both 4K and 8K on this, looks amazing. Unfortunately, the 8K files are quite large, so that will put some drain on your computer and maybe your SD cards. The settings I'm using most of the times for my shots are 4K in 30 or 60 FPS with the standard color profile, and exposure value is set to -0.3, which keeps the highlights a bit down and prevents the overexposed clouds, which could ruin your footage in my opinion. I've also set the bitrate to high to get the most data into each shot. So if you just got your Ace Pro 2 or looking to get one in the near future, make sure that the first thing you do is to go into settings, then into image settings, and then change the bitrate to high. It will be night and day in my opinion. And the same thing goes for every other camera. The first thing you need to do is to go in and change the bitrate, because by default it's set to the lowest. Now, as for white balance, I've set a manual white balance to 5400 Kelvin, and this is what I'm using most of the time unless I'm diving, where I change to auto white balance and enable underwater mode, which is doing an amazing job in correcting the colors. For field of view, I'm always using either action view when I'm on my motorcycle and mega view when I'm doing everything else basically. I've also set my sharpness to medium or low depending on what I want to do in post later. Sharpness low basically helps me correct the image a little bit better and add my own in-post sharpness rather than having the digital sharpness coming from the action camera. A little bit more work, but you know, I don't mind. For exposure balance and the metering mode, I've set this to face priority, which helps correcting the facial exposure when I do vlogs or film a subject's face, something like that. So that's basically the settings that I use and my go-to settings for traveling, motovlogging, and vlogging. Now let's talk a little bit about features. As I've said many times, I'm not really the one that use a lot of these features in these action cameras. Usually I just change the resolution and the frame rate according to what I'm gonna capture, and then I just press the record button. That's most of my shots are just like that. Maybe you use a lot of these features. Personally, I just want to capture video at high quality. And you know, with the camera I like to use. But there is a feature I really like to use and I use every single time I'm using the Ace Pro 2, which is a feature called clarity zoom, where the camera punches in 2 times, giving you that 40mm-ish equivalent look. Not exactly how close it is, but I'm just loving this feature. And for cinematic videos, it's a huge game changer when I mix this with some normal, not zoomed in shots in 4K 60 FPS and then slow these down to 50% in post. Now, when it comes to photos on the Ace Pro 2 here, we have a few options. It takes some really good photos, to be honest, both in 4x3, 50 megapixels, or 16:9 up to 37 megapixels. Not something I do a lot with action cameras, but it's really nice to know that once I want to take a few photos, I know it's gonna look good. And when it comes to other shooting modes I use, we have a pure video for low light and slow motion, which I use every now and then when I'm out traveling. And even though we have low light mode on other cameras, I still think the pure video mode on the Ace Pro 2 is the best available if you're not considering something like the Pocket 3. But these are also 2 different cameras. Now, when it comes to audio, I would say we have decent audio on all these cameras, but compared to the Ace Pro 2 got some significant improvements in clarity and noise reduction. However, I still prefer to use a wireless microphone when I do vlogging, and that's where I've been using the DJI Mic Mini here and the DJI Mic 2 for a very long time. Mainly because these have been the only good available microphones, and they paired up with my action cameras in a smooth way, except for the GoPro Hero 13 and 12 for some reason. But Insta360 recently released their own microphone here. This is the mic ear, and this is compatible with the X5 and the Ace Pro 2, and this is just as convenient and good as the mic mini, if not slightly better out of the box when it comes to clarity. Currently using the mic mini now from DJI. How does this compare to the new microphone from Insta360 when we switch over to that? So I now change over to the microphone from Insta360, the mic Air. How does this sound in comparison to the mic mini from DJI? So which one do you like better? Is it the mic mini or is it the mic Air from Insta360? However, I do think these two mics here, the mic mini and the mic Air, are equally good, and it also comes down to what you prefer to do in post-production and how you want to process the audio in your editing software later. But out of the box, you know, you can hear for yourself. So this is the audio coming from the mic Air from Insta360 connected to the Ace Pro 2 when going at a slower speed, so about 40 kilometers there. We're gonna pick up some speed later to see how the mic Air performs when it comes to a lot more wind, which might come, well, it guaranteed that is going to come through my helmet, so it's going to be interesting to see and hear how the mic Air performs. And another thing, for this particular sequence in the video, I'm using ND16 and I'm also using manual settings, so I have the shutter speed set to 1/160, I have ISO set to 125, I have the standard color profile, I have the bitrate set to high, and I have the white balance set to 5400 Kelvin, and also the metering mode set to face priority. Even though I'm not recording any faces, I think this works or is the best overall exposure balancing mode or metering mode. So I'm basically using this all the time. Doing another test here. How is the mic Air picking up on the audio now versus the wind? I'm riding straight towards some heavy gusts here, and I can feel it inside my helmet. The wind is just smashing my face, smashing my mouth, everything. So how does the microphone pick up on this? I mean, this audio should sound really bad. I'm really happy that Insta360 is taking audio seriously and made their own mic, which sounds amazing, with the X5 and the Ace Pro 2. Now, one of the questions I get all the time when I make these videos of action cameras is which camera should you buy and which camera is better? Firstly, it doesn't really matter which camera you use, because it's not the camera that sets the limits. It's us as users and our creative minds. So with a little bit of creativity, you can capture and create just about anything and make it look good regardless of what camera you use. The other side of it is, what do you prefer to have in a camera, like features, resolution, and frame rate? And when it comes to the Ace Pro 2, I think this is a camera for those that wants to capture high quality videos both day and night and still have the ability to test and use a full library of features with minimal effort. Like, there's endurance mode for those times you need to record longer videos. There's also a dedicated underwater mode which optimizes the footage and locks the screen. There's also free frame mode which captures horizontal and vertical videos at the same time. And there's also a dashcam feature where you can set it to automatically start recording when you turn on the ignition. And there's also other useful features like voice command, hand gesture, pre-record, AI highlights, and more. So you have all these features which won't necessarily make your videos look better right away, but it could help you to see things in a different and more creative way, which would then help improve the final video. So I think the Ace Pro 2 is for those people who want a little bit of everything without having to spend a lot of time changing settings or swiping through section after section before getting to the different settings. The other question is whether it's worth buying this camera now or if you should just wait for something else. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter what camera you buy because you can capture just about the same thing with all these cameras. It's just which one you like more. But from my experience, I don't think you would regret buying the Ace Pro 2. It's a fantastic camera with a lot of features, and in my opinion, it has the best low light videos you can get at this time in a waterproof camera. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the comments which will agree with me on this one. Even if the low light videos aren't insane, and there's probably many years until we get to that point where that low light footage actually looks good, I mean really good, I still think the Ace Pro 2 is on the right path and takes the lead in low light performance. So is it worth buying? Yes. Should you buy it? Well, that's completely up to you, but I really hope that this video could help you make the right buying decision based on your needs. And if I missed something or if you have any questions related to the Ace Pro 2, let me know in the comments below. So that rounds up my 1 year later review of the Ace Pro 2. Don't forget to check out the links down below as well and the other videos, and make sure to subscribe, drop a like, and click that bell so you don't miss the next video. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.